Tomb Raider, a staple of 90s gaming and a lot of nostalgia for today's gamers. Remasters of Lara Croft's early adventures, the original Tomb Raider, Tomb Raider 2 starring Lara Croft, and Tomb Raider 3 The Adventures of Lara Croft with added levels, which I assume were PC only, because at the time consoles didn't have DLC. Published by Aspyr and released on February 15th for all major consoles, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and 5, and Nintendo Switch. As of this time, no physical copies were announced. I cannot wait for these games to come out. The first two, anyway. So let's dive in like we're jumping off the waterfall in the Lost Valley and revisit a world of pulling, pushing blocks, confusing level design, and locking the butler in a meat freezer. And review the classics and remasters that turn Lara Croft into gaming royalty. The big selling point of this game, for me anyway, is at any time you can switch from the original graphics to the modern graphics. The 90s graphics at the time were amazing looking. Today, a little rough on the eyes, very blocky, jerky, overall not bad at all. I still think they look good. The modern graphics are smooth, sharp, and clear. Very good looking. Aspyr did a nice job. Small things I noticed. In the original Tomb Raider, snow comes through holes in the cave ceilings, and you can see daylight like the 2007 PlayStation 2 remake. There's lightning bugs in the Lost Valley, and even the cinemas at the start and between levels is sharper looking. Not like the God of War collection for PlayStation 3. They didn't touch those. The controls, as I've said before, very funky. After fighting wolves, T-Rexes, and mummified skinless cats, the controls and camera will be your worst enemy. You will run into walls and hear Laura's noise a lot. For a little while, anyway. You get used to the controls, it just takes some time. But playing this after so many years was like trying to fly a battleship. She's built like a bistro, but she handles like a steakhouse. Luckily, someone knew this, and you can go into the options and change from the original tank controls to a more modern setup. And a little known fact, if you hold R1 and the action button to climb a ledge, Lara will do a handstand backbend flip thing. This was not included in the Sega Saturn version. And saving. In the originals, you could only save at certain points by finding floating crystals. In this, you can save anywhere at any time, which makes a lot of levels somewhat easier. I'm looking at you, St. Francis Folly and the Cistern. The sound. Tomb Raider was never big on music. It was used very sparingly to create a sense of urgency or a brooding mood. It relied more on sound effects and ambient noises to make that sense of isolation, which I love. The flute at the title screen and scattered throughout levels is still present, and almost 3 decades later is still as classic and atmospheric as the day it was released. The music is untouched between these. It's not like Star Ocean, the second story, where you have the original soundtrack and a more orchestral arranged version. So for better or worse, these games will take you back to the early days of 3D gaming. These really were amazing games when they came out. For anyone who played these back then or grew up with them, this is an essential buy. But I feel a lot of gamers may have a hard time with them if they only know Tomb Raider from the great 2013 trilogy. Between the controls, the camera, the options may help. Having to find medipacks, no self-replenishing health, and shooting a crow 37 times to take it down. So in closing, I enjoyed the time I spent with them. Brought back a lot of good memories. Overall, it was a fun and annoying, at times, return to the past. Before we end this video, there is one more Tomb Raider I'd like to review. I say, God damn!